Welcome to the Real People, Real Business show, where we're talking with business owners who are in the trenches, everyday people who are working hard and have relevant and inspiring stories that you can relate to. Everyone we speak to is actively building and growing their business and is here to share their experiences, lessons, wisdom, and guidance so you can be inspired to take action towards your own goals. Today, I am so excited to welcome Liz Green. She's a book coach for leaders who feel drawn to share their message close to their heart, but are stuck trying to get it on the page. They're afraid of screwing up their opportunity and ruining their reputation or that of their organization. So Liz helps them finally finish their book, know that it's good, and use it to make the world a better place. Welcome to the show, Liz, and thanks so much for taking the time to share your story today.
Hey, thanks. It's an honor to be here. I love listening to the show, so I'm thrilled to be on it.
Oh, good. Well, I'm so glad you've had a chance to listen to the other episodes. I know that you know a few people who have been on the show and are part of their community. So here's your chance to tell us a little bit more about you and how you got to where you are. Let's hear the story.
Yeah, the story of how I got to where I am today. I was a reluctant entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought it sounded like a horrible experience. I thought it sounded like too much responsibility, too much risk. I thought anyone would be mad to do it. I was quite happy in my corporate gig. Actually, that's a blatant lie. I had horrible bosses and work environments. I wasn't happy, but I just didn't think it would be better any other way. So I was doing my thing, working in marketing and public relations, and climbing the corporate ladder. I was having a lot of success, doing pretty well despite, all the nasty office politics and trying to, rub my boss's ego and all the rest of that stuff that I'm sure a lot of us have been through. And then I got sick in 2013. I had a minor medical procedure. It was supposed to be no big deal. Maybe I'd be out for a couple of weeks and then I'd be fine again. And they said to expect a couple of weeks of pain, that's all, and then you'll be recovered. So a couple of weeks of pain happened, and then I had a couple more weeks of pain, and then the pain never went away. And I just was constantly in pain day and night. And I had a lot of tests and saw a lot of doctors and 100 million appointments with every department under the sun. And they eventually diagnosed me with chronic pain, which is the lamest diagnosis ever. It just means that you've got pain. But I basically got some nerve damage during the surgery, and I was in constant pain. And eventually I wasn't able to work anymore. I had to go on sick leave. And so I was left with no job. Everything that I had been focusing on was gone. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was finally forced to face the fact that I didn't even like being in the office that much anyway, because even though the work was great, the boss was a nightmare, the politics in the office was a nightmare. So I eventually started looking for something that I could do from my sick bed. And I started writing for a friend. She was a wedding planner, and she had a blog, and it was kind of dormant. Occasionally she'd post a few pictures of weddings that she'd done. And I messaged her and said, hey, would you mind if I write a free blog post for you? Just I want to test and see if I can do it. See if I can write a blog post for someone else in a way that doesn't sound like me, but sounds like you and your brand and your wedding business. Can I do that? And she said, oh, well, I just came back from a conference where they talked about the importance of blogging. Can I just pay you to write a blog post for me every week? So I did. And eventually I realized I was really good at it, and I loved it. And it was so much more fun to do this work and to be creative and to help business owners who are really good at what they were doing, but perhaps not so good at the writing stuff. And I was good at the writing stuff, and I had so much fun helping, bringing my skills to them, especially when I knew that their business meant so much to them and that they were really passionate about doing a good job. And they weren't just there to cash a paycheck. They were there to do really good work for their people. And I could help communicate that. So over the years, that led to, I started helping those business owners write books about what they were doing and the message they were trying to share. And now I'm a book coach. So for business owners and leaders in industry who want to write a book to share the messages that they've learned through their work, and they really want to get it out there, they're really passionate about communicating with it, but they realize that it's hard to write a book. So I coach them through that process and we get their book finally finished.
So you kind of glossed over this, but you went from the writer to the book coach. So tell me a little bit more about that transition, because I know that that was a big one for you.
It was, yeah. When I started writing books with people, they would come to me and they had a brilliant message to share, super smart people, and I'd hear them talk about their book idea and I'd be like, this is brilliant, like so many people could benefit from this. And then I'd see them start to write something on the page and I'd be like, oh man, this is painful. Like, how is such a smart, intelligent person just like, this is bad on the page? It wasn't working. So I started ghostwriting, where they would tell me all their brilliant ideas and I would write it up for them using their words, using all their message, but in a way that actually made sense, you know, with commas and periods and stuff. But what I realized eventually was that my favorite part of the whole process was helping people figure out what they really were trying to say and how to say it in a way that landed with other people. Like, it's so powerful when you see someone talk or write about their message and you see the reaction from the reader or the listener and they're like, oh, they get it. They understand what I'm trying to say. And you see that resonating with them. And I wanted my authors to have that experience themselves, where they write something and they see that it's really landing and coming across in the way that they intended. It's so cool when you speak up and know that you've been understood. Not many people get that all the time in this world. Everyone's so busy doing their own thing, not really paying attention, not really listening. But when you know that you've said something and you've been understood, that's amazing. So that's why I shifted into book coaching, so that I can help these authors do that themselves, so they can write on the page and say what they want to say, what they feel on their heart, and know that as far as is possible, that they've done everything in their power to actually be heard and understood.
That's amazing. And that was a big shift for you too, in terms of your own work, right?
Yeah, it means that I'm spending far less time slaving away in a dark room on the keyboard and far more time on video calls, which is a lot more fun for me. Obviously, I enjoy writing, but I really enjoy working with people. And that's the most fun part of the process for me, is working with other people. So this allows me to do much more of that.
Yeah, that was your own shift for alignment in your own business, right?
Yeah, and you know, the interesting byproduct of that I didn't expect is that as I've been doing less and less writing for other people, I've been far more creative for my own stuff. Like, I didn't realize that I was kind of losing my passion a little bit. I felt like my blog was a chore every week, and since I've been doing putting less of my wordsmith creativity to other people, I've had more for myself to put it into that blog. And I've been really enjoying the writing for myself again. It's been so fun. And I didn't expect that to come, but it's been really nice, like, byproduct.
You know, I talk about this all the time, that when we hear, oh, find your passion and you'll never work a day in your life, like there's a real danger in that, because people will take something that they enjoy, like their little hobby passion, and they'll try to turn it into a business and end up completely stifling themselves and taking the joy out of what they were doing. But we really actually have these business passions, which are a different layer. And when we figure out what those business passions are, then we find the business model that's really going to work for us. And for you, it was a matter of finding the way that you work best in this sort of realm, right? You're still in the creative space, you're still in the writing space, but there was a different need that you had. And whatever that was for you personally, right?
It's such a spot on kind of analysis, because I loved writing for so many years. I grew up loving writing, loving books. So I was like, I'm gonna write books. Take what you love and make that your job. And then I did lose some of my passion for the writing that I was doing for myself, because I was putting so much of myself into serving other people on the page. Whereas this shift has let me do the work with people in a way that feels really good and still have the creativity for my own business.
Yeah, which is, as you know, so important in order to keep the growth happening, right? And to keep moving forward with your business, because the last thing you want is something that feels like friction, right?
Yeah. And I think I'd just gotten so used to this is the way it is, that if you maybe if you told me like you need to get more creativity in your business, I would have been like, well, this is just what it is. There's work is work is work. And it's so interesting how when you shift one thing, everything else comes into alignment, and then you realize what you were missing out on before. So I'm really glad that, and you were a big part of that process, because you coached me through that shift, and it really got me back into a place that I didn't even realize that I needed to go into.
I think a lot of people, they have it in their hearts, right? It's all in there. They know it already, but we get overlaid with so many messages that we have to do things in a certain way, and that, the right business is a certain format. And I don't know that people have permission, or they realize they have permission to actually create this really unique business that's so uniquely theirs.
Yeah, I think in some ways we have almost kind of low standards for ourselves. Maybe if
Right?
you come out of the corporate world or whatever, and you don't realize that you can expect more from your work. Um, and so, the nice thing for me is that I think I liked the idea that I didn't just sit stagnant, even though I didn't know I was aiming to get more creativity in my business. By by being willing to change and experiment, by being encouraged by you, pushed, maybe nudged lovingly, but by really being willing to change things up, I found something better that I wasn't even looking for. But it was because I was willing to change things up. And I think that's what we have to do as business owners. We have to be willing to play with it and experiment and change things.
Your energy around your business has changed a lot in the last year.
It has, hasn't it? It doesn't feel like such a drag anymore. And you know what? Writing the books was really fulfilling in a lot of ways, but I felt in some ways a bit of a fraud, because I loved what I was doing, but sometimes I get really bogged down in the process of doing it, and it would feel really heavy. So now that I've changed that, I'm still helping these people get the books out into the world, sharing their messages, which I think is so important, to speak up and say what you really believe in this world. So the end goal is still the same, but the way of getting there feels a lot better.
And talk about the pace of change. Like, I know this is one of the other misnomers out there, is that things should be happening so quickly, and the minute you decide to make a change, everything's going to shift.
Yeah, isn't that just a crocker? Am I allowed to say bad words on here?
Of course you are.
Yeah, it's sometimes I think I'm a bit of a special snowflake because I still have the chronic pain condition. And I'd say I'm about 85% recovered, something like that. It's very well managed now. I'm able to work what I consider a full-time hours. So I'm doing really well with the health stuff, but it does flare up occasionally, and it makes me feel all sorry for myself because I'm trying to do all these things at the same time as managing some health things. But the truth is that everyone is managing something: kids, family, life, another job, whatever. Everyone's got stuff going on. And I get frustrated. I do get frustrated when I can't move faster. And that's something I've had to kind of grapple with and come to terms with, is that I'm not always going to be able to take giant leaps forward. Sometimes I just have to shuffle, and I just have to keep shuffling, and eventually I'll get there. And I think these days I feel a bit better about the idea that as long as I'm still shuffling, I'm still moving in the right direction. But yeah, sometimes I get frustrated that I can't make those bigger leaps. But you know what? You keep going and it happens eventually.
So you have done some really incredible mindset work this year, to move through some of those challenges and some of the stories and what have you. What kind of advice do you give to people who are facing challenges and who are getting caught up in the, in the time we're in right now? This is especially relevant. But
Yeah.
when you're, in my opinion, when you're prone to panic or catastrophizing things, it's actually really difficult for your business, right? So what are some of the tips you can share in terms of some of the big mindset shifts you've made that have helped you normalize and keep moving forward even when you have these big things going on?
Yeah. And I've definitely been prone to that in the past where, and even still on occasion where I have thoughts like, oh, I can't work the number of hours I wanted to today, and my whole business is going to fail, and I'm not going to be able to pay the mortgage, and everything's going to fall apart. And it's easy to let those thoughts pile up, even if you're not quite as absurd as that, but just to feel like the pressure of it piling up when you can't do all the things you want to do at the speed you want to do them, or if you're forced to take time away from the desk, it is hard. And the first thing I would say is to recognize that, like, it's okay that sucks, because it does suck when you feel like you're being held back by something outside of your control. It sucks. I suppose what really helped me was getting to grips with what I really wanted, which, for a long time I was saying, I want my business to be successful. I want my business to be successful. And what I think I eventually realized was I want my business to be successful without jeopardizing my health, or without taking time away from my kid and leaving him sitting on the porch on his own because he doesn't have any childcare right now. And mama's got to work, So that, yes, I want my business to be successful, and there are some other things at play. And I needed to acknowledge that I don't need to be resentful that I have to look after my son sometimes instead of working, because I actually love him and do want to look after him. And I don't need to be resentful of looking after my health at times, because it actually matters to me that my health stays strong and that I'm able to survive for the long haul, even if that means taking time away from my business, look after my health. So I think it's a case of looking at what you want. For example, I want my business to be successful, and then going a step further and saying, well, what else is going on in your world? Like, is it really, really, truly awful if you have to look after your kid because they don't have childcare right now? Yeah, it kind of sucks, but also I actually really love my kid and want him to have a great life experience and want him to enjoy his days and, be fed, use the potty, and he needs an adult around for that. So that's helped me see things, or have more patience with the things that otherwise would feel like they're getting in the way. Yeah, that's been a big part of it. And it's not easy, and it still comes up.
For sure. For
Just
sure.
forgiveness of myself as well, knowing that if I get frustrated, it's okay. Like, I can keep going, and it's okay to feel frustrated. Sometimes it's not going to make or break me.
Yep, it's all about that sort of temperance, right? Like when things feel crappy, that doesn't have to be everything, right? We can feel crappy and
Right.
still be moving forward in our business. We can have more than one goal, and we can have a goal that we have a successful business and we get to parent our children, right? So these things don't have to happen in isolation.
Yeah.
I think we run into problems when we try to make them the only goal, right?
Mm, yeah.
You've also
Yeah.
done some really interesting work around defining who you are, in the sense that we've got a lot of stories where we tell ourselves, I am a person who, and by changing that story, has given you a lot more energy back in your business.
This is such an insightful comment. Yes. And I don't think I would have gotten there if I hadn't had some coaching, business coaching, from you, that outside perspective to show me what I was doing, because I had no idea I was doing this until I had some business coaching, where I finally realized that I was really thinking of myself as a sick person, like in quote marks, like a sick person. So I can't do that, or I can't build my business, or I can't make progress at the speed of everyone else because I'm a sick person. And some of those things might be a little bit true or a lot true, but I finally realized that it was not helping me at all to keep thinking of myself as a sick person. Especially given that my health has improved so much. It's still a struggle at times, but regardless of the situation of my health, thinking of myself that way wasn't helpful. Like I wasn't getting any moving in the direction I wanted to move in with that mindset. It was just holding me back. And I was going to say I wasn't getting anything from it, but I actually was. I was getting this kind of get out of jail free card, like this ready-made excuse for why I wasn't so successful, why I wasn't making the money I wanted to make that month, or this or that, and why I needed to go to bed early instead of putting in an extra hour on the laptop. It was a very convenient excuse.
So let's shift focus here for a second. Tell me about who you work with.
Yeah, I work with business owners and leaders who have a message that they want to share, something they feel really cool to share with the world, something that could help other people. And they want to get that message out there, and they want to see more people be transformed by the things that they've learned in their own lives and work.
Okay. So are these personal stories? Are they kind of professional stories? Like, who are these people?
That's a really interesting question, because to me, they're often one and the same, personal and professional stories. The people that I work with tend to be writing a book for their business or to share the work they do with their business. But what I find is that the most powerful messages, the ones that I'm really interested in helping people get out there, often relate to our own personal stories as well. So, I mean, there are people out there writing books like 6 tips to win in the stock market, or how to declutter your home in 7 simple steps, or whatever. And those are really helpful things. I've read books like that. I've loved books like that. But the books I really enjoy working with people on are where somebody's had a personal experience, or they've got stories in their own life through their personal stuff or through their business. So stuff that's a little bit more heartfelt, a little bit sometimes more raw, more honest and true and vulnerable, stuff that kind of gets to the heart of the matter. For example, I worked with a lady, a parenting book, and she is a mum who's had anxiety, depression, and some other stuff going on. And she wanted to help other mums who have struggled in those areas. So it was, in essence, it was a parenting guidance book. She shared a lot of stories in there, really honest, true, powerful stories about how her experiences have informed her and what she's learned from her own experiences parenting kids when she's struggling with anxiety. And so it was a very kind of gut punching book that really connected with readers. And those are the kind of things that I love to work on, where you feel like you've got something to share that's really it comes from the heart. It's not just coming from your college degree and your experiences, which are all useful things, but I want to take it a bit deeper. I love going a bit deeper. and helping people get out, and that you're not quite sure if you're brave enough to share it, but you feel in your gut that if you do, someone else is going to really benefit from that.
So it's so much about that impact, right? And that's,
Yeah.
you're writing books with impact.
Yeah, definitely.
And what has growth meant to you?
What has growth meant to me?
Like, where have you seen growth in your business? I mean, that doesn't even need to mean financial growth, but what does growth look like to you in this business?
Well, thankfully, I have seen financial growth, and I was able to match my former corporate salary last year, but working half the number of hours. That was a big accomplishment for me. So that was a great moment to recognize growth. This year, I think as I've been working with you, Stephanie, the growth that I've seen most has been in the mindset shifts, where I've started to really understand, pretty much for the first time ever, what's going on, like the behind the scenes behind why I'm making certain decisions or doing certain things over and over again. And I'm like, why do I keep doing this? And I've started to have that insight and understanding into my own behavior with my work and my business and the things that trip me up. And it always seems to be the same stuff time and again. And I'm starting to understand what's going on there, and being able to move past that. So in the last year particularly, the most growth I've felt is in understanding really who I am in my business and what I'm doing. And it feels kind of empowering because I see how to move forward and step up my game. And I'm excited for what the next few years are going to bring, because I think, having worked with you, Stephanie, and seen what I'm really doing in my business, now I feel better prepared to move forward and to not just, I'm sure I'm going to keep butting up against the same self-sabotaging challenges over and over again, because I'm human and that's what we do. But yeah, I'm excited to see where that kind of mindset growth is going to take me.
And I think I appreciate you saying that, because the reason I ask this question and I don't ask about financial growth is because I want people to recognize that growth can happen. Growth is super important in their business, both on the financial side, but also on the rest. Growth can happen in a lot of different ways. And we need to go through all these different types of growth in order to get to the point where we have a sustainable, financially capable business, right? And so I want to shift the focus just from the money, which is important and which is we're all striving for, but recognizing that growth needs to happen in a lot of different ways in order for that business to be successful and to keep building, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't know how this mindset growth is going to play out yet. I feel like I'm in the midst of it, and I can't look at this and say, I worked on all these mindset things with Stephanie for like months and months and months, and then my business quadrupled the next month. Like, I don't know what's going to happen yet, but I do know that I'm in a much better place, and I feel more confident that wherever I go in the next few months and years, it's going to be somewhere better and different than I would have gone before.
Yeah. I would rather see you make the growth in your foundation first than try to run after, quadrupling your financial goals, but still have like a crummy foundation, because that can happen temporarily. But if you haven't given yourself something that you can build upon, it gets really hard to sustain that financial growth, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is sort of the most pivotal thing that's happened in your business?
Oh, without a doubt, when I first signed up for business coaching, easy. And I didn't really know what I was going into. I thought I needed some, and I did need some really practical how-to steps. I didn't realize that I needed the coaching aspect, where somebody was helping me figure out what I was doing and why I was doing it and why I kept getting stuck and what was tripping me up and all those other things. I had no idea that I needed that. But when I started getting business coaching, it all started to become apparent, like bit by bit by bit, like threads being unraveled. And I have no doubt that if I hadn't got business coaching, I would have stayed stuck and I would have given up because I would have been frustrated. And I probably would have gone back to a corporate job and hated another boss. Bosses don't tend to like me. Maybe I'm the problem.
I think there are some of us that were never meant to work for other people.
Yes, I'm definitely one of those people. Yeah.
Which is ironic given your opening comments saying that you never wanted to be an entrepreneur, but you're actually probably quite well suited to be an entrepreneur.
Surprisingly, it's funny how things work out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have given up on my business if I hadn't got business coaching because I would have just been frustrated and not understood why things weren't working. And so, my biggest takeaway lesson from that is that help in whatever form, help is worth so much, because this is not an easy thing to do, to build a business on your own. None of us were taught in school how to do this, or very few of us. It's not easy, and so you need help, and help can take you so far, further than you think you can get on your own, further than you imagine you can get. So whatever help looks like for you, get help, because there's no need to struggle so hard on your own, and it can be so much better.
And I think help for you has been partially the coaching, but also partially the community, right? The support and the normalization and the guidance and the peer support as well.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that is true. I tend to be a bit hard on myself. I've been making a conscious effort to be better lately, but I tend to be a bit hard on myself. Like, oh, you're such an idiot. Like, oh, why are you doing this? Like, come on now. And then hearing that, oh wait, everyone does that. Or, oh, there's lots of other people who are doing the same thing. Reminds me to be easier on myself about stuff, which is very helpful.
Yeah, the normalization, knowing that everyone's kind of going through the same thing and they have the same thoughts. I think that that's a really important thing that the community can bring you. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like the work that you do with your clients. So do you have a bit of a unique process you go through?
Yeah, my main work is book coaching, and I call it finally finish your book, because that's all we're doing. And there's nothing super mysterious about it. We're just going to finally finish your book, because for a lot of people I work with, they've been thinking about this forever. It's been on their heart forever. And maybe they've made a few tries at it. Maybe they've even got a bit of a draft going on, but they haven't been able to make more progress, and they're frustrated. And they're usually pretty good at getting things done in other areas of their life, but for some reason, this damn book thing just will not come together. So we finally finished the book. And we get together on a bunch of calls like this, where we talk things through. We talk about what they really want to say, and then we talk about, wait, beyond that, what do you actually want to say? And then we talk about who are you trying to say this to, and what do they need to hear, and where are you getting stuck? And sometimes you don't know where you're getting stuck, and that's fine, and we figure that out together. That's why sometimes you need help to figure that out, because you can't see on your own where you're getting stuck. And we do regular calls every 2 weeks, and in between those calls I get them to send me writing. So I give them actual editing feedback right on the page, like a professional editing feedback. But instead of having to wait till they've slaved their way through an entire painful draft, they can get it as they're going along. So they can figure out if they're going way off track, or if they're doing something good, how to keep doing more of that. And they can stay on target, because they've got the accountability where they actually have to send me some words every week or they miss out on their chance to get support. So they send me words every week. They're actually making progress on their book, and then knowing that every time they write, they're getting better and better at it because they're getting that really frequent feedback. And then we jump on calls and we talk it through, and we say things like, hey, did you know that passage you just wrote was really good? What did you do? Let's do more of that. Or if they tell me it was really hard to write this week, all I wanted to do was all of my laundry instead of writing. And we talk about, okay, well, what's going on with that? Like, maybe this is a really difficult story for you to share. Let's talk about that. What's going on? And we figure out why, if maybe it needs to be left out, or maybe you do need to share and it's just hard to write about. So we work through that together. So you're not on your own left banging your head against a brick wall because the words won't come out. You might get less laundry done this way, but you'll actually finish your book. So yeah, and we just keep working together in that cycle until you get your book done and you have it there ready to go, and you can finally say that you're an author. It's very, very cool.
So the interesting parallel is that what you've just described to me as what's really moved your business forward is kind of the same thing that you're doing for your clients, right? There's this really human side to writing a book. And it's so much less about the actual writing and the accountability, and it's so much more about being able to understand and pick out what's happening with the person as opposed to what's happening with the writing.
It's so funny. I never thought of it like that, but that is exactly what's going on. Yeah, because sometimes there's like mechanical logistics things going on with why we're not writing. Sometimes we haven't scheduled time, or sometimes we haven't, we don't know which program to use or whatever. But it actually, even with those things, it's usually something deeper going on. Like, you can't choose a program to write in. It doesn't matter what program you write in. You can write in any flipping program you want. It really doesn't matter. What's probably going on is that you're feeling resistance to getting started because maybe you're afraid that you're not going to be good enough. Your writing's not going to be good enough. Or maybe you're afraid that what you write is going to offend someone. Or maybe you're afraid that someone's going to say, who are you to be writing this? There's something deeper going on. And this is why so many people get stuck writing, because there are so many things that can trip you up. And if you don't have help to kind of untangle those and see what's really going on, you're not going to make any more progress. And yeah, it's exactly what I've been doing in my business, where you've been helping me untangle these things that I didn't even notice. And you're like, well, duh, Liz, of course this is what's tripping you up. And I had no idea.
I think whether it's your business, your book, or anything else, when you're not getting, I wrote a whole piece about procrastination, and procrastination is not because you're a bad person or you have bad habits. It's because you're not clear on something, or you've got a story about it, and you've got a fear bubbling up underneath. So I suspect most of your authors are struggling with the same thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is. And your job is to clear that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is true of anything that means something to you. Like, the people I work with, they're not just writing a book to get more speaking gigs or make money. Like, that might be a good thing about it, but they're really writing because they feel like they have something to share and they want to get this out there, and they can feel it on their heart. They got this book inside them and they got to get it out. So this is not just like a business logistics decision. And anything that means something to you, whether it's building your business or finally sharing that message that's weighing on your heart or anything else, like, that's where all those little mind demons pop up and try to stop you, because your brain is trying to protect you, right? But yeah, it's the same for anything that really matters in this world, I think.
And do you think we can kind of just plow through the things that don't have much impact on us or meaning to us? Do you see that with people? Like, if there's a part of their book that's kind of, they're really confident about it, or they already get it, or it's very clear to them, that they tend to just sort of move through those pieces really quickly?
I do see that at times. Yeah, I do see that, where once you've kind of figured out the background issues that might be tripping you up, when you're feeling confident and you know what you want to say, a lot of people who've tried writing before have experienced that moment where the words just flow and everything comes out of you and it feels really good. And you can create more of that, but you have to work through the background things first to kind of clear the way for that stuff to come out in that flow state or whatever you want to call it.
You made a conscious choice to work with people who are already in the process, right? And I know we talked quite a bit about this. And I think what was interesting is how you broke down your understanding of your industry to figure out who you want to work with.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time going through that. We did, yeah. And it became really clear to me that my heart just breaks when I see people struggling so much. And I wanted to work with people who feel kind of a bit beaten down because they've been trying. Like, they're willing to do the work and they've been trying, but it's hard, and it is hard to write a book. So I wanted to go in and work with people at that stage. And I really liked the kind of exercise that you took me through of saying, okay, so when are they going to get frustrated and open up Google and type in that, like, looking for help? What are they going to type? Who are they going to look for? And what's going to frustrate, like, so for me, my people might start Googling for an editor, and then they're going to realize that editors usually only work with people when they've got a full draft finished. And then they're going to get frustrated because they don't have a draft. That's the whole point, is that they can't get to a finished draft because this isn't working for them. And you took me through that process of understanding what they were doing, what they were looking for at each step, and then what the next frustration was going to be that was going to direct them to the next stage of looking. And that was how we ended up figuring out where I should be looking for people.
Right, because you're not working with people who are just like have the idea that they might want to write a book. They've already been in it, right?
Yeah. Most of my people have already done something, and it might just be like a few notes in an Evernote document. They might have a draft already going, various stages, and it doesn't really matter what stage you are at. But I just know that if people are struggling, I just want to, like, wrap my arms around them and tell them that they don't need to. It doesn't need to be so hard. I gotcha. We can do this together. It doesn't need to be so bad.
Mama Bear
Yeah.
coaching. Okay, so this is a question I like to ask people. This is a question I like to ask people because there's always some pretty interesting answers. But what do you think the difference is between what we hear about running a business and what's real?
We hear people talking. Oh, wait, what do I want to say about this? I think we hear people talking about all the time about what they're trying to do for other people, as in the people that they serve, which, I've been talking about that all through this conversation. What we don't hear about, which is so true, I think, is how our businesses serve us and what we gain from doing. I feel like you want to say, like, hallelujah right now. Like, the way, and I see this with books as well. When I work with a writer on a book, we talk a lot about who the book is for and who they're trying to connect with and so on. But what I always see is how amazing it is for somebody to work on their book, like how fulfilling that is for themselves. And it's the same with your business. Like, it can be so fulfilling for yourself to work on your business, to put yourself out there, to say what you really want to say, to do the things you really want to do in this world. Like, the amount that gives you, like, yeah, we want to think about the customers, but kind of forget about the customers for a minute. Like, what this does for you is incredible. And I don't think people talk about that very much.
I think you should talk about that. I think you should talk about that a lot.
Yeah. And because I see it in my work all the time. Like, it is so great when authors finally find the courage to say what they really want to say and to speak up. And whatever happens next, whether their book is a bestseller or whether, only their mum reads it, to actually stand up and put your words down on the page and say what you want to say, that's empowering. That's a big deal. And the same with our businesses, to step up and do what we really want to do It's very, very empowering.
I have never heard someone who has published a book say, I so regret doing that.
No, me either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're coming up on time, but I want to know from you, like, what's next for you? What's this year going to look like for you?
Good question. I want to finish up this transition into fully book coaching. I still have a couple of ghostwriting projects that I'm wrapping up. Really good books, actually, really a lot of fun to work with. But I want to fully move into this book coaching era of my business and keep amping it up, just doing more and more of this because it's feeling good. And I feel like in my work with you over the last few months, I've cleared a lot of these kind of underlying hurdles that I hadn't realized were there, that kept tripping me up in terms of, my mindset and, my schedule and my planning and things like that. And we've got all of that kind of, I feel like I've cleared the path now and I'm ready to start sprinting a bit more. And I mean, it's me. I'm never going to sprint that fast. I know that. I'm okay with that. But maybe like a little bit faster than I have been going. Maybe instead of being like the slowest tortoise, I'll be the fastest tortoise.
I think that's the name of this interview, The Fastest Tortoise.
I'm all right with that.
You need to write a book
I'll
about
be the
that.
fastest tortoise. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. I feel like I've taken like in our work in the last few months, I really set myself up for success going forward, and I'm really interested, curious, excited to see how much more I can do now that I don't have all these kind of tricky mindset things playing around with me as much, or that they're still there, but that I'm aware of them and that I could have got better plans in place to manage myself in my business.
I'm so thrilled to hear that because you've got so much potential, and I would have hated to see you give up on this business because it just needed to be formed into something that was yours.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what kind of support would you like to ask for from this community? Because that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, and I know you asked this question of people, and I actually had a really hard time thinking about this because it's like, oh no, she's going to ask me and I don't know what to say because it's hard to ask for support still, always for me, and I think for a lot of people. But you know what I would actually really appreciate is the opportunity to coach more people in small ways here and there. So I would say to the community, if you have any questions about your writing, or if you feel like you've gotten stuck anywhere with a book or with a blog post or with a social media post, any kind of words, shoot me a message. It's liz@greengoosewriting.com. Shoot me an email and ask me whatever's going on with you and give me the opportunity to continue honing my coaching skills. That would be incredible. And you'll get some quick, no strings of advice that will move you forward as well. It'll be a win-win. That would be incredible.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure that there are plenty of people in this group that will take you up on your offer. And I encourage all of you to reach out to Liz. She's a brilliant, and that is such an amazing offer. Thank you so much. So thank you so much also for taking the time to chat with me today. I want to wrap up, but can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, you can. I've actually put together a very, very special freebie for you guys. If you are thinking about writing a book, but not sure if now is the best time, or it's going to take some effort and energy, and you don't know if it's really going to be worth it for you, and you've also got a billion other things going on because you have and you're wondering, like, how do I know if I'm ready to write my book? I've got a guide that can help you with that. It's not available on my main website, so you have to go to a very special URL. It's greengoosewriting.com/Stephanie, and I'll ask you to share that with the group, and that will get you that free guide to help you work through the process of deciding if you're ready to write a book. And spoiler alert, the answer is not always yes, because it is, it is a big effort and a big commitment. And I love books, but I also love watching Netflix in the evenings and playing with my kid. So, it's not always the right time. But this guide will kind of work you through some questions to figure out for you personally in this moment, is it the right time to start writing your book?
That's amazing. I will put the link in the show notes. I love the link. And thank you so much for offering that to our listeners. What an amazing gift. So we're going to wrap up, but thank you so much for this conversation, Liz. It's always so good to talk to you, and I get to talk to you almost every day. So I'm just glad our listeners get a chance to hear from you. But I want to thank you for tuning in to hear this story today. Take advantage of Liz's offer. The episodes that you're listening to are all featuring members of my free private Facebook group called the Real Deal Business Coaching Group, where we have daily prompts to keep you focused on building your business, sharing your everyday challenges, bi-weekly virtual coffee chats, open coaching, and member support from this incredible community. If you'd like to join our community or you'd like to be featured on this show, I would love for you to come and hang out with us in the group, links in the show notes, or search up Real Deal Business Coaching in Facebook to find us. And thank you so much for being here today. If you've enjoyed today's content, I would love for you to give us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us share these stories with an even bigger audience. So until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep being real.